Good evening, class, and welcome to Lesson 2.1, Place the First Digit. Let's begin by taking a look at our essential question. Our essential question says, how can you tell where to place the first digit of a quotient without divide? Well, let's kind of break that apart first of all. Let's think about what a quotient is. And a quotient is the answer to a division problem. So basically what we're going to be doing is telling where to place the first digit without actually solving the problem. So let's begin by looking at our unlock the problem. Tanya has 8 purple daisies. In all, she counts 128 petals on her flowers. If each flower has the same number of petals, how many petals are on one flower? So let's begin by underlining the sentence that tells you what you are trying to find. Well, what we're trying to find then becomes the question to our word problem. So what we're trying to find is how many petals are on one flower. Next, we need to think to circle the numbers you need to use. Well, let's go back and look at our word problem. She has 8 purple daisies, but asks how many petals are on one flower. So the fact that she has 8 is very important. So we need to circle that. So let's circle 8 purple daisies. Now our next thing says, in all, she counts 128 petals on her flowers. That means that this 128 is how many petals are on all 8 of these purple daisies. So we know that's going to be a big number. So let's go ahead and circle that because we will use 128 petals. Now the next thing it asks, how will you use these numbers to solve the problem? Well, since we know that we're starting with a total of 128, which means in all, and then we're trying to figure out how many petals are on one flower, so we have to take our 128 and put it into 8 different groups. When we do that, we know that we are dividing. So we will take our 128 and divide it by our 8 flowers. So let's break this down step by step by step. Step 1 says to use an estimate to place the first digit in the quotient. Well, if we're estimating, we then have 160 divided by 8 because that's going to be our divisor. And we know that if we look at our basic problem, we can take 16 and 8 is a basic fact, and 16 divided by 8 is 2, and then we just add our 0 back onto it. So the first digit of the quotient will be in the, and we have to look at our place value. So if we have our 160, we know that these are our ones, this is our tens, and this is our hundreds. So when we look at our answer, we know that we have ones and we have tens. So we know that our first digit of the quotient, which is our answer, is going to be in the tens place. Now, step 2 says to divide the tens. So we have to take, there are 12 tens, because 12 tens equals 120. So there are 12 tens. So we take those 12 tens and divide it by 8. And we know that 12 divided by 8 equals 1. 1 times 8 then becomes 8, which goes under our tens, and 12 minus 8 equals 4. So we know that we have to divide 12 tens by 8 and multiply 8 times 1. Then we have to subtract our 12 tens minus the 8 tens, and we can check. So we have 4 tens, and that's our piece right here, cannot be shared among 8 groups without regrouping. Now, step 3 says we regroup any tens left as ones, then divide the ones. So the first thing we're going to do is we have our 12 minus 8 equals 4, which is the same thing that we received up here. And then we have to bring down our 8 in our ones place. So we bring down our 8, which gives us 48. Now we know 48 divided by 8 is 6. 6 times 8 is 48. And 48 minus 48 is 0. So you just subtract 48 ones minus 48 ones. And 0 ones cannot be shared. That's where our 0 comes in. So since 16 is close to the estimate of 20, and this was our answer of 16, since it is close to our estimate of 20, the answer is reasonable. So there are 16 petals on one flower. Now let's take another example. It says to divide, use place value to place the first digit 4,236 divided by 5. And remember, we need to estimate the quotient first, quotient being the answer to a division problem. So estimate 4,000 divided by 5, because we're always looking for that basic fact that we can use. And our basic fact in this one would be the 40 divided by 5. And we know that 40 divided by 5 is 8. And then we add 2 zeros, 1 0, 2 0, back on to our estimate. So it says in step 1 to use place value to place the first digit. So we see that we've got our ones, tens, and our hundreds. So we know coming over we got ones, tens, and hundreds. So we know that our first digit is going to be in the hundreds place. It's going to be right there in the hundreds place. So we have to look at the thousands. 4 thousands cannot be shared among 5 groups. So we can't take our 4,000 and share it among 5 groups without regrouping. And then it says to look at the hundreds, where we have 42 hundreds. So 42 hundreds can be shared equally among 5 groups. So the first digit is going to go in the hundreds place. Now step 2 says to divide the hundreds. So we've got 42 hundreds divided by 8. So we've got 42 hundreds divided by, I'm sorry, not 8, but 5, 5. Then we have to multiply, gives us an answer of 8. So then we take 8 times 5, which gives us 8 times 5 is 40. So now our next step is to subtract 42 hundredths minus 40 hundredths. And 42 minus 40 is 2, which gives us 2 hundredths that cannot be shared equally among 5 groups without regrouping. Our next step is to divide the tens. So we divide, and we have our 23 tens right here that we had left over because we bring down our 3. So we divide 23 tens divided by our divisor of 5, and 23 divided by 5 gives us the 4. 4 times 5 is 20. So we have our 4 tens times 5, and that gives us 20. 23 minus 20 is 3. So 3 tens cannot be shared equally among 5 groups. Okay, then we have to look at step 4. Now we have to divide the ones. So So we have to first of all bring down our 1, so we have 35. So we have 36 ones, and that is this right here, 36 ones divided by our divisor of 5. And then we have to multiply. So if we take 36 divided by 5, we know the closest number to that is going to be 7. So then we have to multiply 5 times 7 ones, and 5 times 7 is 35, which is right here. And then we have to subtract our 36 ones minus our 35 ones, and that gives us an answer of 1. So 1 cannot be shared among 5 groups. So 4,236 divided by 5 is 847 with a remainder of 1. Alright, instead of a password tonight, you guys will have a problem of the day. So how many digits will be in the product of 5,672 times 5? And remember, the product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So what is the product of 5,672 times 5? How many digits will be in that answer? And that's what you need to record in your binder, and I will see you in class tomorrow.